One of the biggest highlights of Grafana is the ability to bring several data sources together in one dashboard with adding rows that will host individual panels, that is, each with visual type. Now, if you're someone who has no idea what Grafana is and you want to understand it from ground zero, this is the right place. Hi everyone, this is Kavya from Edureka. Welcome to today's session on Grafana tutorial. We'll be learning a lot about Grafana, so stay tuned. Now, before we begin this tutorial, I'd like to address the agenda. Firstly, we will discuss continuous monitoring in DevOps. Then I will give you a brief introduction to Grafana. Then we will immediately dive into demo on Grafana. Then we will download it into our local machine and explore Grafana in detail. Then we will finally create our own Grafana dashboard with several panels on it. And we will conclude the session with Grafana variables. So I hope all of you all are clear about what we will be addressing today. Now, if you like our videos, please don't forget to subscribe and press that bell icon to never miss the latest updates on the Edureka YouTube channel. Also, do check out our Edureka DevOps training certification, the link to which is given in the description box below. So without much ado, let's dive into the first part of today's session and discuss continuous monitoring in DevOps. Now, there are several phases such as continuous development, continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous deployment, and continuous monitoring that constitute the DevOps lifecycle. This is where the birth of Grafana really happened, so we'll have to discuss about this. Now, continuous development is simply a phase that involves planning and coding of the software. The vision of the project is usually decided during the planning phase, and the developers begin developing the code for the application. There are no DevOps tools that are required for planning, but there are a number of tools for maintaining the code like Git, GitHub, etc. On the other hand, continuous integration is the stage which is the heart of the entire DevOps lifecycle. It is basically a software development practice in which the developers require to commit changes to the source code more frequently. Now, this may be on a daily or weekly basis, but every commit that is built will allow you to detect problems if they're present in your code. Building code not only involves compilation, but it also includes code review, unit testing, integration testing, packaging, etc. Now, moving on to the third phase of the DevOps lifecycle, we have continuous testing. This is the stage where the developed software is continuously tested for bugs. For continuous testing, automation testing tools like Selenium, TestNG, JUnit are used. Now, what these tools really do is they allow quality assurances to test multiple code bases thoroughly in parallel to ensure that there are no flaws in the functionality. Moving on to the next phase in the DevOps lifecycle, we have continuous deployment. Now, this is the stage where the code is deployed to the production servers. Now, it is really important to ensure that the code is correctly deployed on all the servers because there has to be no sort of errors in real time. This is exactly why everyone in DevOps practice continuous deployment. Finally, we have continuous monitoring. This is a very crucial stage of the DevOps lifecycle where you continuously monitor the performance of your application. Here, vital information about the use of the software is recorded, and this information is eventually processed to recognize the proper functionality of the application. The system errors such as low memory, server not reachable, etc. are resolved in this phase, that is the continuous monitoring phase. Also, the root cause of any issue is determined in this phase. So what it really does is it maintains the security and availability of the services. Also, if there are any network issues, they are also resolved in this phase. It basically helps us automatically fix the problem as soon as they are detected. Now, these 5 DevOps stages that we just discussed are carried out on loop continuously till you achieve the desired product quality. Therefore, almost all of the major IT companies or software companies have shifted to DevOps for building their products. Now, this is where Grafana comes into picture. It is basically a continuous monitoring tool that will help you visualize your real-time data in an application so you can visualize your data and you can understand how it's working in real time. So before we move on, let us understand why do we need continuous monitoring. There are 4 major reasons as to why we need to practice continuous monitoring. The first and obvious reason is it allows us to have better network visibility and transparency. Continuous monitoring offers DevOps teams clarity on the state of the IT infrastructure by automatically collecting and analyzing data to reflect possible outages and important trends. It also facilitates rapid responses. A primary aspect of continuous monitoring is implementing an alert system that immediately notifies the right people the minute an IT incident emerges. So, this basically enables timely response to security threats or functional stopgaps, minimizing damage and eventually allowing faster restoration of the system to optimal operational levels. The third reason is it minimizes system downtime. Now, consistent system monitoring and quick, necessary alerts help maintain system uptime by raising the alarm when there is a service outage or any application performance issues. The fourth reason is it helps in assisting with healthy business performance. Reduction in system downtime also obviously minimizes negative impact on customer experience, thus safeguarding the organization against losses in revenue or credibility. Also, continuous monitoring tools can be used to track user reactions to software updates, which is useful for several teams like the development team, quality assurance team, sales, marketing, etc. Now that we know why we need continuous monitoring, let's understand what is continuous monitoring. Continuous monitoring, also sometimes referred to as continuous control monitoring, is an automated process by which DevOps personnel or anyone can observe and detect compliance issues and security threats during each phase of the DevOps pipeline. Outside DevOps, the process may be expanded to do the same for any segment of the IT infrastructure in question. It basically helps teams or organizations monitor, detect, study key relevant metrics, and find ways to resolve said issues in real time. As we have already seen in the previous slide, continuous monitoring comes in the end of the DevOps pipeline. Now, once the software is released into production, continuous monitoring will notify developers and quality assurance teams in the event of specific issues arising in the production environment. So, what does continuous monitoring really help in? It basically assists the IT organizations, DevOps teams in particular, with procuring real time data from public and hybrid environments. This is especially helpful with implementing and fortifying various security measures, incident response, threat assessment, computers and database forensics, and root cause analysis. It also helps provide general feedback on the overall health of the IT setup, including offsite networks and deployed software. Moving on, let us check out the continuous monitoring tools in DevOps. Now, there are several DevOps tools for the monitoring ecosystem that help both development and operation teams work together effectively. Now, the first one is the monitoring tools. It should come as to no surprise that we're starting a discussion of DevOps tools with a focus on the set we know best, that is, monitoring tools. A good monitoring platform lets you monitor infrastructure and application performance, whether on prem, in the cloud, or across containerized environments. So you have complete visibility into every system all the time. Now, some of the tools are Sensui, Nagios, Prometheus. Now, Sensui is a flexible and scalable telemetry and service health checking solution for monitoring servers, containers, services, applications, functions, and connected device. Prometheus, on the other hand, relies on the pull method to collect information with a built-in database. Nagios is the legacy monitoring tool that introduced monitoring practices to a generation of operators. The next one on the list, we have DevOps configuration management tools. Now, configuration management tools allow you to automate the provisioning and deployment of systems, enforce desired configurations, and remediate configuration drift. By modeling your infrastructure as code, you can apply software delivery practices like version control, automated testing, and continuous delivery to infrastructure and applications. Some of the tools are Ansible, Chef, Puppet. Ansible is written in Python, which is agentless and utilizes an imperative approach. Chef, on the other hand, is written in Ruby, which also relies on an imperative configuration management approach. Puppet, on the other hand, relies on a declarative configuration management approach using a domain-specific language and an agent master architecture. Moving on, we have DevOps alerting tools. This provides both actionable and informational system alerts and can be customized to fit the complexities of your system. Now, for example, your alerting system needs to be sensitive enough to cover an outage, but not so sensitive that you're catching frequent and unnecessary problems that users aren't really going to see. There are some alerting tools like PagerDuty, ServiceNow, Slack. PagerDuty is an on-call management platform with add-ons for analytics, event intelligence, and automated incident response. ServiceNow, on the other hand, utilizes automated workflows for ITSM as well as customer service and business processes. Slack, on the other hand, lets you consolidate alerts into the same platform you use for group chats and collaboration. Next on the list, we have metric storage. Once you've automated configuration management, alerting, and monitoring, you will have a whole lot of data at your disposal to learn from. The challenge is, how do you securely store and analyze it? You obviously need a storage system that lets you aggregate and learn from system capacity, user behavior, service levels, security risks, and much more. This is exactly where metric storage comes into the picture. The different types of tools are InfluxDB, Splunk, AWS. InfluxDB is simply a time series database that's suited for long-term data storage. Splunk, on the other hand, uses a search engine database model to store and query data. AWS, on the other hand, supports a wide range of storage purposes, including relational and non-relational databases, a data warehouse for analytics, a time series database, a ledger database to store transactions, and much more. In this session, along with Grafana, we will also learn how to configure InfluxDB to get real-time data, so stay tuned for that. Moving on to the last type of continuous monitoring tools in DevOps, we have visualization tools. Now, a visualization tool might be considered essence of your DevOps tool chain for monitoring. You get to basically combine all of your data here, sort and finally visualize it, that is, display it on customizable dashboards. Now, what really visualization tools do is they provide context and meaning that allow you to track changes and improvements over time. And they also give management a real-time view that helps guide strategic decisions. Customization options make it easy for team members to design and share their own dashboards. Grafana can be used on top of a variety of different data stores, including Graphite, InfluxDB, and Elasticsearch. Now that we know that Grafana is a visualization DevOps tool, let's move on to the next part of the session, Introduction to Grafana. Firstly, let us understand what is Grafana. Grafana is a multi-platform open source analytics and interactive visualization web application. It basically provides charts, graphs, and alerts for the web when connected to supported data sources. Grafana is expandable through a plugin system. It allows you to query, visualize, alert on, and understand your metrics no matter where they are stored. Create, explore, and share dashboards with your team and foster a data-driven culture. Also, Grafana has become the world's most popular technology, which is used to compose observability dashboards with everything from Prometheus and Graphite metrics to logs and application data to power plants and beehives. With all of this said, let's move on and check out some of the features of Grafana. The first one is to visualize. From heat maps to histograms, graphs to geomaps, Grafana has a plethora of visualization options to help you understand your data beautifully. The second feature is alert. And Grafana seamlessly define alerts where it makes sense while you're in the data. Define thresholds visually and get notified via Slack, PagerDuty, and much more. You can also unify in Grafana. Bring your data together to get better context. This is because Grafana supports dozens of databases natively, and the best part is that you can mix them together in the same dashboard. The next important feature is that it is open source. Grafana gives you various options. It's completely open source and backed by a vibrant community. Use Grafana Cloud or easily install it on any platform. The next important feature is that Grafana can extend. You can discover hundreds of dashboards and plugins in the official library of Grafana. Because of the passion and momentum of their community, new ones are added almost every week. The last feature of Grafana is collaboration. You can bring everyone together and share data and dashboards across teams. It basically empowers users and helps foster a data-driven culture. With all of this said, let's dive right into the demo and install Grafana into our local machine. Now, I will be working on my Linux virtual machine, that is Ubuntu. And if you are working on it too, then you can follow the same procedures to download Grafana onto your local machine. Now, to do that, we will firstly go to the official website of Grafana. So here you can see how you can install Grafana on Ubuntu. So there are some set of commands that you'll need to incorporate to download Grafana onto your system, and you'll have to just follow that. Now I'm going to open my terminal. So once we install Grafana onto a local machine, I'm going to explain you the entire graphical user interface of Grafana and how it really looks, how we can make dashboards, how we can make new panels in your dashboards, etc. All of that we'll be learning in this part of the session. Moving on now, let's go ahead and install Grafana into our system. So I have a set of commands already in my notepad, so I can just copy paste it and I can make the entire process more easier. So I'm going to copy the first command in the notepad, and this will allow me to download the packages for Grafana. So now that's done, I'm going to download Grafana and all of its packages, and then I'm going to start and enable Grafana server. Now the Grafana server has started, you can see here, and its status is active and running, so that's great. So in the next step, I want to know on which port is my Grafana instance running on. So for that, I'm just going to type in the command sudo ls of -i -p. So this command will give me a list of instances that is currently running on my VM. And as you can see, Grafana instance is running on port 3000. So now I'm going to open my local browser and I'm going to type localhost. And since the Grafana server is running on port 3000, I'm going to type that. And this will redirect me to the login page of Grafana. And as you can see, the Grafana page will prompt you to enter the username and password. By default, the username and password of your port 3000 is admin. So the username is admin, the password is admin, and I'm going to log in. Now, if you want a new password and you don't want it to be admin, you can just type in your new password and confirm it and then submit it. For now, I'm just going to skip that. Now you can see the home page of Grafana, and it's very interesting because all of these that you can see, the blue big boxes that you can see, are all panels. You can really play around with these panels. You can view them, you can edit them, you can share them, you can duplicate these panels, you can remove these panels, you can also move around these panels. So this is really interesting. Even the Welcome to Grafana panel can be moved around, can be edited, it can be shared, you can remove it, you can make changes, you can really play around with all of these panels in Grafana. And if you scroll down, you can see a blog which will give you the latest updates about Grafana and its changes that are occurring every day. Also, there are a list of dashboards on the left hand side. This also is a panel, and you can just view, edit, share them, and do whatever you want with it. Currently, you can see there's only one dashboard that I've worked on, and that's the world map dashboard. So this is the homepage of Grafana. And if you want to return back to the homepage of Grafana at any point of time when you're working on this application, you can simply click on the logo on the left-hand corner, and this will just redirect you to this main homepage. Now, if you can see on the right-hand side, there are two symbols. The first one which says dashboard settings, and the next one which says cycle view mode. Now, the dashboard settings is pretty interesting because if you click on that, because you can access to the general configurations of the application. You can name your main Grafana as whatever you'd want to. You can also add a description to the home dashboard. You can add tags. You can also place it in a general folder, which is pretty interesting. You can edit it. You can auto refresh it based on time, etc. You also have annotations, variables, links, JSON model. All of these are not really necessary because this is a beginner tutorial. I'm not going to discuss any of these in details, but this is what the home settings allow you to do, the dashboard settings. Now, the cycle view mode is pretty interesting. Now, if you want the left hand panel, you can see a left hand panel with certain icons that are present. If you want to not view this, you can just click on the cycle view mode and that'll disappear. And even if you want the home tab to disappear, you can just click on the cycle view mode and it will just hide everything. And if you want to get back the panels, you can just click the escape button on your keyboard and everything will return back to normal. So I hope this is clear. I hope this homepage was really easy to understand. Now let's move on and check out these icons that are present on the left hand side. So if you want to search any of the dashboards that you've created, you can obviously click on the search button and then just search it by name. So you can sort them based on alphabetical order. As I've already mentioned, there's only one dashboard currently that I worked on that is named World Map. Let's move on to the next icon, the plus icon, which will give me 4 different options that says create dashboard folder import. Now, if I want to create a new dashboard, I can click on this dashboard option and it will redirect me to a page where it says new dashboard and you can add a new panel. Now, the panels are pretty interesting because you can really play around with these panels. You can increase its size, you can decrease its size, you can move around with these panels by just hovering your cursor over the top part of the panel, and then just you can really move around and play around. You can also add panels to this by clicking on that, and this will redirect me to another page where I can give my panel title, I can add a description to my panel, I can choose what kind of visualization I want to represent my data in. If I want to represent it in a graph, I can click the graph. If I want to express it in a gauge form, I can do that too by clicking on the gauge option. It's really interesting. You can really pick your options out. There are various options. You can also view the plugin list options. There are several thousands of plugins that are available on Grafana, which you can download on your VM, and you can view these panels here. So that's interesting. Moving on, we also have queries. You can select your database from this option. Currently, the default data source is selected. You can also write your queries as you'd like to display them, and that will be expressed in the visualization form that you have selected. We can remove these panels by clicking on the remove button. If you want to add a new panel, you can just click on this add panel option. You can add as how many ever as you'll need. So there's no limit to this. So you can add how many ever panels you'd want to using the add panel option. You can also save this dashboard. You can name it as whatever you'd want to, and you can choose a folder. So we're going to learn about that in the next part. So you can create different folders and you can save different dashboards to each of these folders. That's what the folder option will allow you to do. And you can also check out the dashboard settings. We've already discussed this. And you can also, again, view this in a cycle view mode. And there's a time range that you can pick using this option, which will allow you to display data in terms of time. And finally, you can zoom out and you can also refresh the dashboard. If you've made any changes, you can save it and refresh your dashboard. And the incorporated changes will display immediately. I hope this is clear. The new dashboard option is a pretty important option, and this is what you'll really be working on in most of this application. As I've already mentioned previously, you can create as many folders as you'd like to. So I can name my folder anything I'd want to and then just create one. And whenever I make a new dashboard, I can save those dashboards that I'd want to save in that particular folder. So this will allow me to really manage my folders. Also, there's an option called playlist where I can create playlists to cycle dashboards on TVs without user control. And the last options will allow me to view my snapshots. So with this, I hope the folder option is clear. So this option will allow me to import dashboard from the file or, from the official website of Grafana. The next option is the explore option. So here you can really just explore the entire database and you can just add new queries. You can run queries. So this option will allow me to write queries for my data, and the options or the results of these queries will be displayed here. So the explore option is a little different and it's pretty interesting. Moving on, we have alerting. Alerting is another really important option in Grafana. So what really Grafana alerting allows you to do is it allows you to attach rules to your dashboard panels. So when you save the dashboard, Grafana extracts the alert rules into a separate alert rule storage and schedules them for evaluation. You can view all of these alerts or you can search for alerts in this option. So in the alert tab, you can also specify alert rule notifications along with a detailed message about the alert rule. This can be done via the channels. So you can create rules and you can just search for them. Alerting is a really important option here. Moving on, we have configuration. Now, this configuration part is extremely important because this will allow you to add a data source into your Grafana, right? So you can click on the option add data source, and this will redirect you to a page where you can see a series of different databases. You can see time series databases, you can see logging and document databases, you can see distributed tracing, you can see SQL, cloud, etc. So you can just select any of them and just create one. You can see that in time series databases, you have Prometheus, you have Graphite, you have InfluxDB, and in SQL, you have MySQL, PostgreSQL, Microsoft SQL Server. In cloud, you have CloudWatch, Azure, Grafana Cloud, and you have many other options that you can really select. So this is great. So you can just add your data source using the data sources option in configuration. Also, you can control and view the different users that are working in your Grafana by clicking on the users option. And you can also search the user by their name, email, login, etc. You can create teams. So you have a particular project and you want to work with a particular team, you can just create any number of teams that you'd like. Grafana provides n number of plugins that you can download from the internet, and you can incorporate these in your dashboards or in your panels. So these are really interesting. You can search them by name or type, and you can also download more plugins on grafana.com by clicking on this option. Moving on, we have preferences. You can update your organization profile. You can also switch on to different themes. Here, if I click on the light theme and then save it, it will change my Grafana into a light theme. And because I prefer the dark mode, I'm just going to switch back to that. Now, the last operation in the configuration is the API keys. You can add a new API key. That's all this option really allows you to do. Finally, you have the option server admin. Here you can view the users, you can view your organizations. So this option really just allows you to check out your system settings that are configured in Grafana. Also, you can just check out the statistics of the users, admins, viewers, the active sessions, your total number of playlists, your total number of snapshots, how many dashboard tags you have, how many alerts you've got, and how many users have been active since a particular amount of time. That is here 30 days. All of the statistical activities that are occurring in Grafana can be viewed in this option. And finally, you can also upgrade your Grafana to Grafana Enterprise. So this is what the entire graphical user interface is about. There are other two options that I'd like to talk about. Is this icon that you can see on the left corner. This will allow me to sign out. This will allow me to change my password and also change my preferences. Now, if you'd like to edit your profile, make some, really nominal changes, or you'd like to change some preferences, you can click on this option and just do that. You can also change your password here if you'd like to. And if you click on this question mark icon, you can see the version of Grafana. Currently, we're working on version 7.3.7. And these are all the community support keyboard shortcuts. All of this is given in the help option. So I'm just going to click on my Grafana logo and move back to my Grafana homepage with my home dashboard. So I hope this part of the demo really gave you an overview of how Grafana looks like, how Grafana works, or how you can get started really with Grafana. And also, I hope it helped you install Grafana into your local machine, because that is really important. Once you install it and once you configure it, you can just get started with it. Now, before we get into the demonstration, let us just go check out what we're going to create. So firstly, we'll be creating a world map which will show us the confirmed cases of COVID-19 over the past 1 year. So all the panels that we've really created here is the data of the past 1 year itself. As you can see on the left bottom corner of the world map panel, there is a white tiny box which is called as a legend. And as you can see, cases with less than 100 cases is represented in green color, and 100 to 10,000 cases is represented in orange color, and cases above 10,000 is represented in red color. So only the confirmed cases has been represented on this world map. Now, if I scroll down, you can see a bar graph which represents the confirmed cases, death cases, and the recovered cases of India. So the green one represents confirmed cases, the blue line represents the recovered cases, and the yellow one represents the death cases. This is again representing the cases over the past 1 year in India. So if I scroll down, I've created 3 more panels of the confirmed cases in India, death cases in India, and recovery cases in India. And this is the average number over the past 1 year. This is not the total or the sum of all the cases. And I've represented these panels in the form of gauges. Now, moving on, I have also made 4 different panels representing each of the state cases. Okay, so here we have Maharashtra, Karnataka, Delhi, and Kolkata. And this is the graph of their recovered cases, death cases, and confirmed cases. So, this is a panel which represents the state Maharashtra, and the recovered, confirmed, and death cases are represented in the form of a graph. So, this is what we're going to create. I hope you guys like it. Without much ado, let's get started. So, before we begin, we have to install a data source into our local machine, right? So, for this demonstration, I'm going to pick InfluxDB. InfluxDB is basically an open source time series database which is optimized for fast, high availability storage and retrieval of time series data in terms of fields. You can use InfluxDB for operations monitoring, application metrics, Internet of Things sensor data, and also real time analytics. That's what we are going to do, right? So, to install InfluxDB, we can go to their official website and check out the commands to install InfluxDB on Ubuntu. So, these are some of the commands that is given in the official website. I have just made a list of it in my notepad so that it'll be easy for me to install it. You can also follow the same procedure, else you can just go to their official website and get the commands to install in your operating system. So I'm going to switch back to my terminal. So these are some of the commands that will allow me to install InfluxDB into my Ubuntu. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste this. And once that is done, you can copy the remaining commands that will allow me to install InfluxDB and start it on my server. Now the last command, I'm going to copy paste the last command, and this will start my InfluxDB. Now to check on which port my InfluxDB is currently running on, I am just going to type out the list of current running instances. My bad, it's sudo ls of -i-p. And this will give me the current running instances. As you can see that InfluxDB is running on server 8086. So that's great. We have InfluxDB running. We also have Grafana server running on port 3000. Now that we have both our Grafana server and InfluxDB up and running, we can move on and create our database and activate it. I'm just going to clear the screen. So now I'm just going to type influx and I'm going to enter my shell of influx. Here I want to check out the databases that are currently present on my influx database. So it will show me 2 databases, that is internal database and COVID. So internal database is a default InfluxDB database, and COVID is a database that I have created manually in the past before. Now, if you want to create your own database, like the one which I just created, COVID, you can just type create database COVID-19 and click enter. This will automatically create the database COVID. Now, if I click on show databases, it will show me that there is a new database COVID-19. Now, I can use the database COVID-19 with the command use COVID-19. And if I click on show measurements, it has none right now. So it's not going to show any measurements. Now we'll switch to Grafana and we will activate our COVID-19 database into InfluxDB. So now I will switch to my homepage of Grafana and click on add your first data source. And this will redirect me to my database page, which will give me a list of all the databases that's available. Since we'll be working on InfluxDB, I'm just going to select this. And this will redirect me to a page where I can name my InfluxDB database as whatever I'd like to name it. And it will also prompt me to enter a URL. So as we already know, the InfluxDB is currently active on port number 8086. I'm going to write that. And if I scroll down, it will also show InfluxDB details. And here I can select my database. So I'm just going to type COVID-19. Okay, so that's clear. There's name InfluxDB1. We will also add in the URL with port number 8086. And we will also give in the details of the database that we're currently working on, that is COVID-19. And we will just click on save and test data. So it says data source updated, data source is working. This is great. Now I'm simply going to go ahead and create my first dashboard. I'm going to create my first panel, and the first panel that we're creating is the world map data. So by default, you won't have the world map visualization. You will have to go to the Grafana plugins website and you will have to download the world map panel by yourself. So you will have to go to Grafana plugins and click on panel option here. And you can see that the first panel that will turn up is the world map panel. I'm going to click on the world map panel and going to click on the installation. And you can see that there is a command which will allow me to install the world map panel. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to quit from this and I'm going to type in sudo and I'm going to paste the command that I just copied. And this will immediately install the Grafana world map panel into my Grafana application. After the Grafana world map panel has been installed successfully, I will have to restart my Grafana. For this, I will click on sudo service Grafana server restart. And this will automatically restart my Grafana server. Now, if I switch back to my dashboard and reload this page, and if I just click the world map, you can see that the panel has been added. So I'm just going to click on that panel. Now what we're going to do is we are going to get our data set. For this, I'm just going to download my data set from trackcorona.live.api. So the reason as to why I'm using this data set is because the world map plugin has a format that needs to be followed. So there is latitude, longitude, there's the name of the country, and also there is a metric. The metric is another parameter that needs to be followed, which will allow you to give you a certain radius for the particular country that you are representing on the world map. So all of this format is clearly satisfied on this trackcorona.api database. And all of this format is satisfied in this country level data on trackcorona.live API. So I'm just going to download this link location and directly download it on my terminal. And I will just do this by typing in the command sudo wget. Now that I copied the location of the dataset, I'm just going to download it directly on my virtual machine with the command sudo wget, and I'm going to paste the link location, and this will automatically download the dataset into my local machine. Now you can see that the countries.csv has been successfully downloaded and saved, and I can view this countries.csv.1 when I list it down. I'm going to clear my screen. So once I clear my screen, now I will go and I will start coding. I will create my first Python file. I will name this worldmap.py and I will start editing my file. First, I will have to import pandas as PD. I will also require a client for my InfluxDB database. So I'm just going to type from. So as you can see that I've already typed out the entire code, so I can now explain it to you. And as I've already mentioned, firstly, you'll need to create a client and you will have to incorporate two parameters for this client, that is the host and the port number. So that's what the code does in this line. Then you'll have to connect the client to the database, and since our database name is COVID-19, I'm going to pass that. And then you'll have to read the CSV file. So whatever the name is of your CSV file, just add that here. Then I'm going to drop the null values and then print it. And in this for loop, I'm just going to iterate over this df. And for every row inside this df, I will add a value inside my influx server. Now, influx server is a NoSQL database. So you need to send in the JSON format database. So this JSON body has basically three fields, three really important fields. The first one is measurement, the second one is tags, and the third one is fields. So measurement is the table or the name in which the data is stored. And for now, we're just going to name the measurement as COVID map. The tags are the property which is repeated. Now, what I'm going to do is to explain this, I'm just going to download this CSV file. Now, once I download the CSV file, I can see the location. There's a location, that is the country name, and there's also code for that country, for that particular country. You also have the latitude, longitude data. You have confirmed, dead, recovered, updated, etc. So the second field, that is the tag field, is a property which is repeated several times. For example, the country names. The country names have obviously repeated several times because based on the case and the confirmation or the death, there's a country name, right? So obviously here in this database, the country has been repeated several times. So if there are cases from the United States, there are many cases of United States. So that particular country has been repeated several times. Tags is basically property which has been repeated. Now I'm going to keep the tag as the country, and because it's in row 0, the country name, I'm just going to mention that row 0. So the next one is fields, and this is anything except the tags. So anything which is not a tag is basically a field. So there are 4 different parameters here, that's name, latitude, longitude, and metric. I've already mentioned this earlier in the session. So the name is again in row 0, the name of the country. The latitude and longitude is given in row 2 and row 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So row 2 and 3. I've specified that row 2 here. And then the metric is given in row 4. So the metric here can be either confirmed, dead, or recovered. So you can either represent the dead cases in your world map, or you can also represent the recovered cases in the world map. But right now, I'm just going to represent the confirmed cases on the world map. So I'm just going to pick that as my metric, and that's on row 4. So I've just mentioned that. Then I will finally pass on the JSON body to my client, and then I'm just going to print done. Now, I hope this piece of code is clear. I'm just going to save it. Once that is done, I can just run this file. So it's python3 worldmap.py. Okay, great. So it's clear. And I'm going to install pandas and InfluxDB. So I'm just going to click pip3 install pandas InfluxDB. And this will automatically install pandas and InfluxDB for me. Because I already have both of these installed, it says requirement already satisfied. If you don't, it will download for you. Now moving on, I will clear the screen and execute my world map Python file. So it has 230 columns and 8 rows. Now I will enter my influx shell and I will check out my databases. I'm just going to use my database COVID-19. And after that, I'm just going to check out my measurements. So we just created one measurement in the world map Python file, and that is COVID map. So that's given here. Now moving on, we will check out the data information in our COVID map measurement. As you can see, there's time, there's name of the country, there's latitude, there's longitude. That's great. Okay, now we'll switch back to our dashboard and create our world map panel. So I'm just going to create a dashboard, add a new panel, and then here I'm going to click on visualization as world map. The panel is right here. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my InfluxDB1. Then I'm going to select my measurement as COVID map, and I'm going to add the fields. There are 3 fields. I'm going to remove this field. The next field that I'm going to add is longitude, and I'm going to add another field that is metric. Then I will add name. I'm going to remove this too and format it as a table. Once that's done, I am going to check out my map data options. Now in the map data options, I'm going to click the location data and select table. And in the field mapping option, the table query format should always be in terms of coordinates. And as soon as I click that, you can see that there are circles that appear in the world map. Now the location name field is name. Now, once I specify the location name field as name and refresh my dashboard, so when I hover my cursor on a certain area, then it will show me the name of the country. So you can see that the green ones have 10 plus cases. So the legend that is present in it will give me an idea of what each color represents. So the green currently represents more than 10 cases, and orange will represent cases that are between 0 to 10, and red will represent cases that are less than 10. So we'll just change this threshold. You can change the threshold options here. So I'm just going to keep the threshold as 100 and 10,000, and I'm just going to save this. So the cases that are less than 100 should be in green color. So I'm just going to apply that. So the cases that are more than 10,000, I'm just going to represent that in red color. So I'm going to click on the red color. I'm going to apply. And now you can see that the countries with more than 10,000 cases are going to be in red color, but the countries between 100 to 10,000 cases are going to be represented in orange color, and the countries with less than 100 cases are going to be represented in green color. So this looks pretty good, right? Now we'll just go to the setting and then just change the name of this to world map. Okay. I want to have a transparent background, so I'm just going to use this option to switch to that. And I think everything looks good. I think our map is ready. I'm just going to save this, and I'm just going to save it in the general folder. Once that is done, I will elongate my map so you get a clear picture of how it looks. This looks good, right? Now let's quickly move on to the next part of this demo. Now for the next part of this demo, we're going to go to Kaggle, and I will look for COVID-19 datasets. So in the search keyword, I'm just going to search for novel coronavirus 2019 dataset. And I'm going to click the first dataset. And if I scroll down, this dataset has a serial number, observation date, the state, the country. This is perfect for me for the next part of the session. So I'm just going to download that. And then once I finish downloading it, you can see that you have an observation date, you have the state, country, the last update, confirmed deaths, and recovery. So here in this particular data set, you can see there's a serial number, there's an observation date, you have the state, you have the country, you have the last update, confirmed case, the deaths, and recovery based on that particular date. Now this is great for me. So I'm just going to paste this data directly into my file. As you can see, the COVID-19 data set is already here. I'm just going to place this in that directory, the Edureka directory. I'm just going to click clear. And now I'm just going to check my ls. You have the COVID-19 data set here. So now I'm just going to create a file that's named graph to write my Python code, and I will edit it. So I'll just type in my Python code and then explain it to you in the end, so it won't take up much time. Now, as you can see that I've already created a client to my InfluxDB, and then I add in the database COVID-19, and I'll have to pass a variable to read the CSV file, that is COVID-19 data.csv, and then I'll drop the null values. After that, I will iterate through the JSON body, which has 3 fields that we've already talked about. The first one is the measurement field, and I'm going to name this as COVID metric. I also have the tags here. So here I'm going to specify the country and state. We have the country in row 3, so 0, 1, 2, and 3. And we have the state in the row 2. So I'm just going to specify row 3 here and row 2 here. So I hope that is clear. In the fields, we have confirmed, which is in the 5th row, deaths in the 6th row, and recovered in the 7th row. So 5th, 6th, and 7th. This key is a pretty interesting key, the time key. So here, as you can see, the time column is outside the fields. You can add a key which is called as time here, and you can use observation date that is present in the row 1 column. You can see that the observation date is given in the row 1 column, but because it's in the form of string data, we will have to convert it to the timestamp format. And this is possible only with the help of the datetime Python library. So we can just convert this into UTC timestamp in this line of code. So what it really does is it takes out the time component from the string, and then you can format it in this particular format, that is the month, date, and year. So this is the format that we're going to present it in. So So it's %M /%D /%Y. So that's month, date, and year. I hope this is clear. Now we'll just quit and execute this code, draft.py. And as you can see here, there are 15,000 rows and 8 columns. Now this is done. It will send a message, okay. I'm going to clear the screen. In some cases, you will have to restart your Grafana server so that the data is incorporated into your application. Else you could just check your databases. So here I'm going to check the measurements, and you can see that COVID metric is present. So select star from COVID metric. I'm going to just limit it to 20 now. And this will show me the time, confirmed cases, the country, the deaths recovered, and the state. Okay. Now that this is clear, we can get back to our dashboard and create a new panel. I'm just going to name this panel COVID-19 India. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select. Now, I'm just going to select my InfluxDB1 database, and I'm going to select metric. I'm going to specify the country, and I'm just going to specify India here. And in field, I'm just going to add confirmed deaths, and I'm going to add another field, recovered. Okay. And if you want to show the legend, you can do it, or you can just choose not to. I'm just going to show the legend here. And that's it. You can just save it and apply it. You can see the bar graph. And the other important thing here is you'll have to specify the time. Sometimes it'll just be for today, or, as default, it'll just be for, because this data is from the last year, you'll have to specify the data for the last 1 year, and the graph will eventually display. So I'm just going to apply this. I'm just going to shift my world map above it. I'm just going to stretch this out. Okay, so this looks fine. Now I'm just going to make gauges. So I'll just add a new panel, and I will select InfluxDB1 measurement as metric, where country is equal to India. Okay. And the field value here right now will just be confirmed. Now I'm just going to name this confirmed cases in India. Okay. And I don't want to display the panel with a background. So I'm just going to let it be displayed with the background. And now I'm just going to select my gauge. Okay, great. Now, because this is confirmed cases, I want this to be in yellow color. I don't want it to be in any other color. So I'm just going to change the threshold color to yellow, and I'm going to apply. Okay, great. I'm going to add another panel. So this time it's going to be for the deaths, and I'm going to just select gauge. Going to rename my panel title to death cases in India. And as you can already see, the time ranges for the last 1 year. So that's great. This is already in red. I want the death cases to be represented in red. So I'm just going to apply. I'm going to just shift this here and resize it. Okay, great. And the last one is the recovered cases, right? So I'm just going to work on that too. I'm going to select measurement as COVID metric, where country is equal to India, and the field value is recovered. Okay, this is great. I'm going to change the threshold to green. Okay, great. And everything looks fine. Just we will change the, okay, I'm going to apply. I'm just going to reposition this again. So this looks okay. If you want to move all of these down, you can just pull the world map up, and then just pull the COVID-19 cases up too. Now you can see the confirmed cases, death cases, and recovered cases. This is all the mean value. Now using the new panel, I'm going to represent 4 states. I'm just going to select measurement as COVID metric, where state is equal to Maharashtra, and field value is equal to confirmed. And I'm just going to add more field values, deaths, and then recovered. Okay, great. This looks fine. And I'm just going to name this Maharashtra. Okay. Going to represent this in graph. I'm okay with that. I want to display this without a background. So I'm just going to shift this down as much as I can. Okay. This looks okay. I'm just going to make this for 3 more states. COVID metric, where state is equal to Karnataka, field value confirmed, deaths, and finally recovery. Okay, and this is Karnataka, so I'm going to name that, and I want to display this without a background. Looks neat and clean. There's one thing you could do is you could add alias because you'd want the graph to be represented properly. So this will just add alias. Just going to add deaths here. And finally, we will add recovered. Okay, this looks great. Also, I'm going to add alias in the Maharashtra state. So confirmed deaths. And finally, recovered. Okay, and we will apply this. Okay, looks good. So we have 2 more states to work on. We will work on West Bengal. Confirmed. Going to add alias. And then I'm going to add another field, which will give me deaths. And this will also give deaths. I'm going to add another field, recovered, and this I can just write recovered. Okay. And I'm going to just add West Bengal here, display without a background, and apply. Finally, this is our last panel that we're going to work on. And I will add for Delhi. Confirmed. I'm going to add alias. Confirmed. I'm going to add 2 more fields. And I'm sure you must be very much familiar with how this works now. Okay. I'm going to display this without a background. And I'm going to name this panel Delhi. That's it, guys. This is how easy the tutorial is. This is how easy it is to use Grafana. You have your world map, you have COVID-19 analysis of India, you have the confirmed cases, you also have the confirmed death and recovery cases, which is represented in terms of cages. And also you can represent all the state analysis of COVID-19 in terms of a graph. Now, if you want to change the name of your dashboard, you can simply go to dashboard settings and then just change it to whatever you want. So I'm just going to say COVID-19 analysis, India. Okay. And I'm just going to save dashboard. Okay, great. And this is all. Now, in the next part, we're just going to learn a little bit about variables. So we're moving on to the last part of this session, and we're going to learn about Grafana variables. If you're not new to programming or coding, you must be very much aware that variables are just placeholder for a value, right? So you can use variables in metric queries and also in panel titles. So what variables in Grafana do is they give you the ability to create more interactive and dynamic dashboards. Let us go ahead and check out how this happens. Now I'm back to my terminal. I'm just going to type in Flux. Now, instead of hard coding things like server, application, and sensor names in your metric queries, you can use variables in place of them. Now, before we move ahead, I'm just going to use my COVID-19 database, and I'm going to write a query show tag values with key is equal to country, and this will display me a list of all the countries that are present in my COVID-19 database. And this is what exactly variables do. So this is exactly what Grafana allows you to do. If you have multiple identical data sources or servers, right, you can make one dashboard and use variables to change what you are viewing. So what this really does is it simplifies your entire data. Now I'm just going to click on the logo, and I am going to, if you remember, I have already mentioned this before, that if you click on the dashboard settings, you will get the option of variables on the left hand side. So I'm just going to click on the variables and then I'm going to add a new variable. I can name this variable whatever I'd like to. I can just name it as COVID countries. So all the rules that we had learned, syntax rules that apply to variables, also applies here in Grafana. So the type is query. You can also use constants, data sources, systems, anything that you'd like. I'm just going to type out the query, right? So I'm just going to use that. And my data source is influxdb1. And I'm just going to, type the same query. Now, if I scroll down, it will show me a preview of all the values, right? So all of these values are shown here. You can just add this variable and just display it in a dashboard. That's how simple it is. So if you have any particular values that you'd like to display, so this is what values really does. It allows you to, simplify your data and then visualize it and represent it in Grafana dashboards. You can do this with IoT sensors. You can do it with, if you want to analyze your system's performance, all of that can be simplified with variables. So I'm just going to save this and I can use these variables later on in the session. I hope Grafana variables was easy to understand. With this, we come to the end of today's session. I hope you had a great time understanding about Grafana. I hope this Grafana tutorial gave you a brief overview of how it works, how you can really get started with Grafana in general. And this is just like a simple tutorial. You can create as many projects and demos you'd like to. It's really easy. It's very interesting. If you have any queries, please do let us know in the comment section below. Until next time, thank you.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!